Yesterday, the farming minister told a conference of farmers that farming is not high in the pecking order for this government. Given the heartless family farm tax, is his minister correct? Yes or no?
Farming's top of the agenda as far as I'm concerned. That's why we put £5 billion to support farmers in the budget. They failed to spend £300 million on their watch on farming, and we set out our roadmap, which has been welcomed by the NFU, as she very well knows. It was described as long overdue. I wonder who didn't do it before. The ministerial code says that ministers who knowingly mislead the House should resign. Why is he still here?
UK Parliament was tumultuous as MPs shouted shame at Keir Starmer after he was accused of a blatant lie. The opposition was livid, and the Speaker struggled to restore order. The House of Commons became a battleground of outrage.
The truth is, the country is paying the price of this endless cycle of chaos and distraction. The Tory economic crash means that millions of mortgage holders will pay thousands of pounds more next year. And the blame lies squarely at the door of a government more focused on the internal wars of the Tory party than the needs of the country. Does he not think that those responsible should hang their heads in shame?
The Speaker explains that the budget allocated £5 billion to support farmers, but failed to allocate the £300 million for their farming watch. They also present a roadmap, which the NFU has welcomed as it was long overdue, and questioned why it wasn't done sooner.
But he's suddenly taken such a keen interest in Greek culture, when he's clearly become the man with the reverse Midas touch. Everything he touches turns to... maybe the Home Secretary could help me out here. Rubbish. So will the Prime Minister do the country a favour? We'll have to check the tape again, Mr. Speaker, I think. So will the Prime Minister do the country a favour, warn us what he's planning next, so we can prepare ourselves for the disaster that will inevitably follow?
The facts speak for themselves. The standards went up under Conservative governments. What we need to know is who is benefiting. Mr. Speaker, everyone is asking who is benefiting from these changes. It's not teachers. Their pay is being capped. It's not parents. Their choices are being restricted. It's definitely not children. Their outcomes will get worse. So who is benefiting? It's the trade unions. The National Education Union sent out a tick list proving that after a decade and a half, they are finally getting their way. Why is the Education Secretary allowing trade unions to run her department and ruin children's education?
In a routine parliamentary debate, Starmer delivered a well-prepared speech, confident in his chosen words. However, he made a claim to support his argument, which was false, highlighting a significant issue in the debate.
Alicia Cash.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said during Prime Minister's question in answer to the Leader of the Opposition that it was not correct that the current government has postponed the implementation of the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme. Yet on the 14th of August, the government website was updated and a statement was proactively issued by the Home Office stating that the first scheme will no longer expected to come into force in 2024. This is a postponement. So please can you insist the Prime Minister returns to the House to correct the record and make sure that we are not misled?
What I want to say to the Honourable Lady, she's been here long enough, and let me at least finish before you start chipping back at me. Can I say, I am grateful for allowing me to have notice of her point of order. But as she well knows, I am not responsible for the accuracy of the Prime Minister's answers in this House. But she has put the point on record, and I am sure that the Treasury bench will have heard her remarks, and let us see where we go.
The Speaker's speech caused a commotion in Parliament, with MPs expressing disbelief. Despite attempts to control the situation, the shouting intensified, and the Speaker's control was already compromised.
Is to allow us to get on with the vaccination programme, and if it had listened to the right honourable gentleman, Mr. Speaker, we would still be at the starting blocks, because he wanted to stay in the European Medicines Agency, Mr. Speaker, and said so 4 times from that dispatch box.
Keir Starmer.
Nonsense. Don't let the truth get in the way of a pre-prepared gag. Mr. Speaker, The Prime Minister knows I've never said that from this dispatch box or anywhere else, but why would we want to be outside of the European Medicines Agency, which ensures all medicines in the EU are safe and effective? Mr. Speaker, let me give three without the details. The European Aviation Safety Agency, which deals with safety, the European Medicines Agency, and of course Europol, which I worked with for many years. These are the bits of the EU which we should be seeking to retain, not to throw away. We will also seek to maintain membership or equivalent relations with European organisations which offer benefits to the EU, such as Euratom, the European Medicines Agency, Europol and Euro.
The political firestorm in Parliament was sparked by Starmer's bold claim about Labour's economic strategy, which contradicts Ed's past statements. Opposition MPs accused Starmer of flip-flopping on a key policy, and despite faltering and deflecting, the pressure was relentless.
Yesterday, the farming minister told a conference of farmers that farming is not high in the pecking order for this government. Given the heartless family farm tax, is his minister correct? Yes or no?
Farming's top of the agenda as far as I'm concerned. That's what.
This wasn't just a minor gaffe. It was a moment that laid bare a deep inconsistency in Labour's leadership. And in the unforgiving world of politics, a moment like this can be catastrophic.
I came here to speak to this man, not your security. You have failed me.
Thank you.
I've been a Labour voter my entire life. You have failed to be the opposition. You have failed to ask whether lockdown was functioning.
Just behind. Can we just?
Do you understand?
Can we go on in?
Thousands of people have died because you have failed to do your job and ask the real questions. Well, I am telling you now, and I hope this goes out. You have failed this country. You have.
They've been on the front line keeping people alive. So I really don't need lectures from you about this pandemic.
You've got one. Why? Can we come in? Okay.
How are you doing?
Good. Thank you. It's the landlord. That man is not allowed in my pub. It's the landlord. I'm not going to physically hurt him. That man. That's assault. I am not bothering you. I am not bothering him. That man is not allowed in my pub. Get out of my pub. Go on. Calm yourself down. Get out of my pub. Calm down.
Sorry, can you keep out of the way?
Thank you.
The incident highlighted a significant inconsistency in Labour's leadership, highlighting the potential for catastrophic consequences in the political landscape.
The truth is, the country is paying the price of this endless cycle of chaos and distraction. The Tory economic crash means that millions of mortgage holders will pay thousands of pounds more next year. And the blame lies squarely at the door of a government more focused on the internal wars of the Tory party than the needs of the country. Does he not think that those responsible should hang their heads in shame?
Critics have accused Starmer of twisting the truth, stating that he has a habit of shifting his stance politically, from Brexit to taxation, NHS funding, and crime prevention, depending on the political climate. This has been a persistent issue for Starmer.
Getting back to this defence budget, Starmer knew he wasn't going to put that up. I don't care what anyone says. He will have predicted, he'll have enough experts whispering in his ear and saying this is the situation. He more than implied that, the defence departments were going to get a fair share of money. They were going to be up in the ante. There was going to be new investment with them, bearing in mind the decline they've been in for the last 12 years or so, and it ain't going to happen. And you know what? He knew it wasn't going to happen. That almost verges on lie.
The Tory economic crash has caused millions of mortgage holders to pay thousands of pounds more next year, with the blame being placed on the government's internal conflicts rather than the needs of the country. The latest debacle in Parliament has given critics undeniable evidence that the government cannot be trusted, and social media has exploded with hashtags like Starmer lies and shame on Starmer, even some of the party's own supporters admitting the incident was terrible.
Last night, time and time again, Rishi Sunak was clobbering you over the head with that £2,000 tax line. It took you almost half an hour to call it garbage. What on earth took you so long?
What matters is the facts. None of our plans involve tax rises for working people, and I'll spell it out. No income tax rises, no national insurance, no VAT. But what emerged from last night, and this is a very important takeaway, is that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, with his back against the wall, desperately trying to defend their record in office, resorted to lies, and he knows he was lying. And I don't say that lightly. Lying about our plans, lying about waiting lists, and lying about votes. And therefore the choice at the election is even clearer now, which is to turn our back, turn a page on the lies, the division and the chaos of the last 14 years and rebuild the country with Labour.
Public trust in politicians is at rock bottom, as people are fed up with leaders who say and do different things. When a politician is publicly exposed, voters are not easily forgotten, and an entire parliament rises up to shame them.
Definitely going to be in recession, that's for sure. Yeah. And they talk about this 22 million black hole that they've found. But if they really want to be honest with it, evidently 9 billion of that is down to pay rises for the civil service. So you know, they're all looking after their own type of people, and I just feel Labour now are just too much, you know what I mean? Would I put Starmer and, was it Reeves and the other one, Rain or something, in charge of my business? The answer's no. I mean, but they're running the country. You wouldn't have
Keir Starmer running, you know, running your bath by the sounds of it.
Well, I wouldn't put him in charge of a broom, if I'm being honest with you. And that's being polite.
Yeah.
You know, they're just absolutely, they're not for the working people. They're all for giving money for people that don't contribute nothing.
Are you now feeling the pressure? Because I think there's a petition that's currently
Your approval
online
ratings have dropped.
1.9 people who want the election to go again.
It's now
is it 2 million now?
It's now just over 2 million.
Do you feel the pressure?
Look, I remind myself that very many people didn't vote Labour at the last election. I'm not surprised that many of them want a rerun. That isn't how our system works.
Some speculate that this controversy could weaken Starmer's influence in the Labour Party and provide his rivals with an opportunity to challenge him.
This is a matter for the Labour Party, Michelle. When you ride to power on the sort of preachings of sort of probity, honesty and reforming the way in which Parliament operates, and then you see grubby little WhatsApp groups like this happening, you do ask yourself, why would they do that? And I think a lot of people get their lead from their leader. And I personally think Keir Starmer is extremely duplicitous. I think this is a duplicitous way to lead your life. And for me, Labour have got to deal with it in the way they decide to deal with it, and if you follow through from what they said before the election, they really should take some quite radical action, but that's a matter for them.
What do you determine to be radical action?
Well, I think, as Barry says, they've got to have an internal investigation. There are clearly other people on this WhatsApp group. I don't know the facts, but if some of this stuff is true, then it's pretty damning towards their constituents. But in answer to your question on by-elections, I've had a look. It would be a juicy by-election in Mr. Gwyn's seat. So I think it would be for us manna from heaven if he were to resign, or any of the others were to resign. It's a perfect time for us to be fighting by-elections. So arguably an own goal by the Labour Party.
The public humiliation of Kama, a leader, raises questions about his future and the public's reaction. Will his party support him or start examining potential replacements? The controversy could change everything, whether Kama exposed himself as an untrustworthy leader or if Parliament justified the brutal call. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more updates on the subject.